Well, joining me now is the retail expert, Kate Hardcastle. Kate, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Well, thanks for having me. I'm joining you live from Las Vegas, where I'm here talking at an event called Shop Talk, which is discussing and understanding the future of retail. So this is a really important topic for me, and that's why I was so keen to come on today.
It's perfect that you are the perfect person for this. Now, you would have heard that clip where Holland said that saying the decision doesn't appear to make sense. From your perspective as a retail analyst, does it make sense to you? Does it tally with current consumer trends?
The thing I can tell you is a long, long time ago, more years than I care to remember, I sat in an office, and this is when I was at the other side of the fence. I was in retail, and I was negotiating with this gentleman from this new brand that I'd not really heard of, and I didn't know how to pronounce the name, called IKEA. And they were savvy and smart, and they knew everything about their customers, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do with the store. It was one of the first stores, and it was in the north of England for IKEA in Europe. Right. And for me, it was that understanding that this brand, the people absolutely were very on top of what we call data, very, great amount of information about how we shop, what we buy, and how we do it. And I think since that point onwards, I've had great respect for the brand, because although they make some decisions that you might look at and query, they tend to know the way that what we call the zeitgeist, basically the way we shop, is going. And looking at everything I've been learning since January of this year in terms of everything like the metaverse, which is this idea that we're in another world online buying items, and how we shop, I think I can see the rationale behind what they're trying to do here, which is smaller, smarter stores using technology and what we call this presence of omnichannel. So the idea that we are shopping online as much as we are in traditional bricks and mortar stores.
So their apparent shift to these smaller, more central shops, they've obviously noticed a trend and gone, okay, this is the new thing. This is where we need to go. Are they that flexible? Because they're quite a big company.
They're very flexible. They have great movement and shift, and actually great retail does, even though it's very big. I've been hearing a lot of brands saying how important that flexibility, what they call fluidity, is. The reason for that is we're changing as consumers. Every day we see things at different speeds. We're influenced in different ways. And just as your colleague said, actually, a lot of people walking past on the high street might not be buying through, might be in the market. That's visibility and that's brand. And that's really important to retailers these days. We all know what retailers like IKEA stand for. We know the meatballs. We know the very long walks around showrooms. But they're trying to find a new era, a new generation, and a new customer, as well as making sure they look after their existing customers. And I think it's that trend that they're very much wanting to build into the future for. They were also, a couple of years ago, one of the very first to talk about furniture rental, which is a very new idea and concept. And even at the time, you do scratch your head thinking, really? IKEA, furniture retail? Wouldn't that take out the idea of selling furniture, which is what you do? But sometimes it is that situation where if the customers are changing and you don't keep up with the trends and you don't keep up with the times. So a lot of this will be experimental as well.
And that's actually, you've given us great insights into this, because, of course, part of it is the psychology of thinking, how do you not only maintain audiences or, customers, but also how do you bring them in? So, for instance, that other example of them saying, if you have a piece of furniture in your home, which is an IKEA piece of furniture, which you haven't used, you can bring it back to us and we will give you, if not all of the money, or a proportion of the money. Now, initially I was like, that's a bit weird, but actually speaking to you now, I'm realizing it's very savvy, because of course I'm going to return something, but I'm also going to go shopping.
You're going to be shopping. It's like the same thing. I get questioned a lot. Why do IKEA have a 365-day return policy? It's ludicrous. No one has that long a policy. Why would you want to give customers that much time to bring the products back? Because guess what? If they're going to bring that coffee table back into store because there's something wrong with it, they're going to come and browse again. And it's this real scenario that we're in these days. I mean, for me, as you can probably hear, I've come alive because of it, because I knew this day of consumers having this control and this ability to shift actually retailers in terms of what they're doing would happen. Yeah. And that's what we're on. We're on the brink of change. So as long as your listeners are very prepared for, yes, things are going to look different and feel different, but it's about them navigating the best bargains and deals for them, I think there's exciting times ahead.
And just finally, do you think it represents a broader change in the retail landscape from those big out of town complex? So we're not really, it sounds like we're not buying into the American, which is where you are, mall concept, where, you know, they've got all these stores put together. Is that what do you see as the future in terms of retail in that aspect?
Very, very blended, if that makes sense. Now, out of town shopping parks, as we call them, have been really successful over the past 2 years because consumers have felt more comfortable there. Now, you could suggest that that's perhaps because there's more open air, or the fact that they can drive up to the door and they can feel that they can come and go as they please, or indeed that there's just not a traffic warden stood there waiting to plaster a ticket on their car. It doesn't matter the rationale. The fact is they've been successful. So I don't think they're on the taper, but I do think that actually there's going to be this evolution where we have less, but it's better quality. And that's what I'm excited about. Yes, there is going to be a period of survival of the fittest. Absolutely, our high streets have gone through hardship and hurt. But as consumers, we're driving that change. You know, retailers are not charities. We are driving this, and we will see the product of actually what we want as consumers delivered to us in all of those different retail formats.
And there you are in Las Vegas. Are you having a flutter as well as having some very serious business?
I promise you not, because I know my family are keen BBC London listeners, and I know that they will be waiting for me to answer this. I promise I've not even seen the sunshine yet. It's been conference room after conference room. But maybe, just maybe, if I do a good enough job for the UK, I might get there in the end of the week.
Well, at least have some fun whilst you're out there, if you can. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. The ever-brilliant Kate Hardcastle, who's a retail expert, talking about IKEA and the changes they are making to their own portfolio.